Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Thursday 2021-7. Today's topic that we're going to be going over is our newest feature here at Emergency Reporting, the Query Builder. This has been introduced. It has been introduced in the beta format so that we can make changes as we go. I'm James Andretta, Regional Trainer here at Emergency Reporting. With me today, I have Kevin Clausen, who we're lucky enough to have our product owner. He works the team that develops analytics and specifically the query tool for today. We also have Mark Wolf, lead international trainer, Tom Lewis, enterprise training manager, Greg Simmons, Mike Reynolds, and Mike Fabian, our regional trainers. They'll be in the background. They'll be able to answer any questions. So if you guys have questions as we go along, feel free.
James, are you sharing your screen? Just want to make sure you're sharing your. There you go.
Okay. All right. Apologies for that. Those guys are going to be in the background. They're going to be answering questions for you guys. So if you have a question, go ahead and post that question in the chat for us. Okay. Just remember, please try and stay on topic. We got a decent amount of people in here today interested in this topic. So put your questions in the chat, keep them on topic, and we'll get them answered for you. I will be following this webinar up. I will be sending out the questions as we normally do, as well as we will be posting this video. We will be posting that in the knowledge base section under the webinars on demand. So you'll be able to find that there as well. There's also a couple of handouts. There's this PowerPoint presentation from today, as well as there's 2 PDF files that have knowledge base articles about how to function within the query tool. So those are available for you guys to come in and view and keep on file as you guys move forward with this. Before we get started on the training topic today, I want to talk about some of the training opportunities. Our virtual Thursdays, we usually have 1 Thursday a month. We're just now hitting April 1st, and we've done 7 this year so far, so we're kind of exceeding the numbers on that one. We do offer online trainings. You can have 3-hour blocks of trainings, or you can customize trainings to meet your needs. Eventually, we're going to get to a full-scale on-site training. For now, there's very limited opportunities on that regionally. And we have begun for this year our regional training academies. Before I go into those and where they're scheduled at, I want to talk about our online training academies that we're having. On April 13th and then on May 11th, we're having 2 online training academies. The first is designed more for a beginning user, beginning admin, bringing everybody up to speed. And then the one on May 11th is going to be for the more advanced users as they come in. We'll be addressing a lot of different topics about the system in there. Will be broke down into different sessions you guys can attend. So please, if possible, if you're available, come on in and join us. Now, as we mentioned last time, we have gotten the green light. We are up and running. The enrollment is open for the Philadelphia Regional Training Academy. That'll be held June 8th through 10th in Philadelphia. Hopefully we'll see you there. As well as we've gotten approval for Charlotte, North Carolina, August 3rd through the 5th of this year. Look for that information to be coming out soon. Tentatively, we have Jacksonville, Florida scheduled for September 21st through the 23rd. We also have Austin, Texas, October 19th through the 21st. As always, if you want any information on training, you can go to our website, emergencyreporting.com, look in the training and learning centers. You can also contact us at training@emergencyreporting.com if you have any questions. Now, on with today's topic, the Query Builder tool. This is a version of ad hoc reporting or custom reporting. For those of you that know, for those of you who have gotten in and used the analytics, this is going to be housed in the analytics module. About a year ago, analytics come out. This is the newest feature in that module. Okay. The query tool basically allows end users to develop their own custom reports. You're going to go in here, and as we're going to talk about the functionality today, you're going to go in and set the criteria that you want to pull that report from. As I stated, it is located in your analytics module. It is in a beta release. The beta release allows to happen, to give you guys the background. You know, Kevin and his team, they can go in there, they can troubleshoot everything that they can think as a group. But when we release this thing out to hundreds of thousands of users and they start using it, they can get that valuable feedback. I will tell you, Kevin is probably one of our best product owners we got, and he is extremely responsive to the feedback that you guys give him. So in order to make this product the best we can make this product, use that send feedback button in there, and I'll show you once we get in there, once I get into my account, use that send feedback button. That does not send the information to the support team, the training team, anybody else. Anything you send goes directly to Kevin, and he can share with his team, and they can make any kind of changes or updates or additional functionality that they can. They try to get in there, and that is really how we make that the best product we can. Okay. Now, what you're going to see in here now for the query tool is its first release is going to be in the incident module. In the future, there will be other modules to follow that you'll be able to do the same kind of functionality with. But for now, currently, it's only the incident module that we're working with. Okay. And one requirement, because I know we'll probably get asked this question, you have to have BI Basic included on your account to be able to use the query tool. That is where it's housed in there. So if you have BI Basic on your account, you're good to go. If you think you should have BI Basic on your account, get in touch with their salesman, send us an email. We'll look to see if you have it to verify it, and we'll go from there for you guys. So a couple slides before we get in and start with the actual queries themselves. I just want to go over what you see here on the screen is you got your queries that you run, you can pull into a CSV file and pull it out into Excel. So some of the definitions I want to go over is the columns and fields and the rows and records, right? So you can see here, looking at the legend, that top highlighted yellow there, when you're building out these queries, you're basically putting the fields and the criteria that you want into these reports that you guys are building as you're going, right? So just understand when I mention these terms of the columns or rows or anything like that, please understand this is what I'm talking about when I do that. Now, for the incident module itself, okay, this is a snapshot I put together of all the different sections that you guys can pull information from based off of the incident module. You're looking at, like it says there, from these menu, you can select any of the criteria you want inserted into the columns, right? So you're going to build your columns out. You're going to select items from down here, and each one of these choices that you choose is going to be included on that report as you guys are going, okay? So with that being said, let's jump in to my test account here. And like I stated, this is in your analytics module down here on the bottom, right above your admin. When you come into your analytics module, it will now bring you into your BI Basic that you have. Over here on this, to the right at the end on that bar, is going to be where you're going to access the query tool. Before we get in and start taking a look at these things, I do want to point out this is, when you come in here, here's your beta send feedback. Now, analytics, the BI Basic is still in beta as well. So you can, whether it be the query tool you want to submit information for, or whether it be BI Basic you want to submit information for, please, and I can't stress to you guys enough, we're lucky enough to have Kevin and one other member of his team in here, David Keeney. We're lucky to have him in there, helping answering questions and things today, but they are so responsive, right? Even to us trainers, when we reach out to them, they add things, as they can get them added, sorted out, make this the best they can. So please, please, please use that send feedback as you're working, okay? When it's time for you to come in and you want to start developing your own query that you're looking at right here, okay, so some of the things I want to point out to you, when you come in here, the different categories, if you start typing in here, right, or you start putting information in there, it's going to bring it up and ask you, or I'm sorry, pare down that list that you're looking at. The views that you have the ability, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, about setting up your favorites. And setting up your favorites, they're going to be the first thing that you use, okay? This one, like I said, incidents is the only thing we have in here right now. Incidents will show any incident related query that you have. And then in the future, when we add anything else, you'll keep going down here and you'll continue to see the other modules. If you want to organize your view a little better, like here on the incidents, you can close this section right here and it'll close those out. Maybe you wanted to, in the future, look at training or occupancy or something along those lines. You want to open that one up and keep these closed, right? But for now, we're going to open up the incident module. Now, I have went ahead and done some queries, and we're going to walk you through step by step on how to build a query as you go. But I've taken the liberty to put some in here so that I can demonstrate some of the functionality on this. You're going to see that every saved query that we have is going to be visible in its own box. Now, looking at each one of these boxes, if you want to make this a favorite so that it will show in this top section for easy access, you come in here, you select that star right there, it's going to change and it's going to add that. At any point in time, if you want to remove that out of there, just click on the star, similar to the hearts in the reports where it's saving it in your favorites. Okay. The next thing you're looking at is for any report that you build and you save, you can download that CSV file we talked about. Right. So I can come in here, and again, I will show you a little bit later. We're going to do that. I'm going to show you how to insert some information in there as well, where you can put some sorting capabilities into it. Now, this is where you'll come in and you're going to view your query. So this is where you can open it up. You can look at all the different things. It's not the Excel download. This is, the version that shows up in the module for you. If you need to, you can adjust any criteria. You can add or take away, depending on what you've seen on the first one. You can add those things and then you can save it as a new query if you want to. This is where you can come in and you can edit. Now, when you're editing this query, you're not going through and editing the content of the query. What you're coming into is this is where you can edit the name, the description, and you can also change the sharing status, okay? And then if you're done with a query, you're not going to use it no more, this is where you can delete. So I want to point out to you, I had Mark come in here and Greg come in here yesterday, and they added their queries to the account. Anybody who develops a query, it will show, providing, when you come in here, I'll show you on this edit right here, if you have this query shared, anybody that's in your account will be able to see your query, okay? Now, some of the things, looking down here, you can see Mark has shared this one, Greg has shared this one with me. I still have the same functionality in these three areas right here. However, if this is not my query, I cannot edit that description and I cannot delete that, okay? That belongs to them. So, if anybody asks the question of, what happens if, I put queries in here, can somebody else delete them? No, they can share them with you, you can view them, you can download them, you can do everything else, but you cannot delete someone else's queries, okay? Now, when you want to begin to set up to do a new query, come in here, select a new query, and then this is where you're going to begin starting to add your things. Now, these are the columns that you're inserting, right? So in the future, if there's additional modules in here, on this drop down, you will see those modules and you can just go in and select the module that you want to build your query on, okay? But for now, incidents, that's where it's at. As far as the columns go, if you want to start typing in and start filtering down things, right? So if I come in here and I start typing, maybe if I spelled right, if I started to type station, all the different things in here that have station about them are going to start populating for you, okay? If you put something in here, you select it, you want to clear that out, you just hit that X, you go right back to all of them. The view that you saw with the highlights and the arrows earlier that I showed you, each one of these, like on your incident info, okay, each one of these, you can choose one, you can choose multiple, or you can choose all based on the information that you want, okay? Now, one thing to point out for you guys, this is based off the incident number. That's going to post in these. This is your dispatch run number. So when you see that run number there, just know that that is your dispatch run number if you guys use that field, okay? This is going to be your FDID, okay? So if you are in an organization that has multiple FDIDs, it's going to list these things by the FDID number if you add that field in there, right? Everything I see in here, if it's checked, it's going to show up as a column in my report. If I want to close that out and come down into my response details, okay, same thing. All these different items that you're looking at, you can choose to add them as a field that will pull the information into your custom query, okay? So in this case, we'll just maybe look at the incident city. We'll just pull one off of that, okay? And let's also include aid given or aid received on this. Okay. Now, the incident types, this is where you can come in, you can select an incident type code, you can select an incident series, right? Or you can come in here, you can select all, okay? As far as your apparatus goes, you can pull it by code, you can pull it by name, you can pull it by ID, apparatus type, or VIN, okay? So if you just want to look at your suppression pieces, right? You type in the apparatus type off there, or you select that, it's going to sort it out based off of, what the and first type is for that apparatus that you're including, okay? And then under your stations down here, this will be the station number. This will be the station name. Now, one of the things that we've talked about, and Kevin and I talked about this the other day, the station zone. For now, that's not pulling from your zones in your basic info 3. It's pulling off of the zone that's listed as the station. We may look at that to make some changes in the future, but for now, just know that that's where that's pulling that information from, okay? And then any of your custom questions you have in there, your user-defined fields. You know, I have a couple in my test account, just simple ones right here, but any question that you have, you can choose to include this whenever you build out your query as you go, okay? So in this case, we'll just pull the mileage question that I have in there. Now, once you've selected what fields you want to populate for columns and pull that data from, you're going to come over and you're going to select your filters that you want to add. Now, when you come in to add the filter, as you begin, the one column here, based off of your choices, you may see a second, you may see a third populate, okay? These are the areas where you can filter the information down from, okay? So that list, and I'll kind of roll through this slowly for you guys, so you guys can see everything. Now, when you guys, if you look at those handouts that you guys have, when you look at those, there is going to be a list on there of these things from the KBA, right? So it will spell them out where you don't have to necessarily go in there. Now, in this case, let's just start with the date. Well, we have the choice of equal, before, after, last, current, last months, last years, right? A single month, a single year, based off of how you want to filter down all this information that you selected over here. So in this case, we'll just go with last, and we're going to select year at that point. So this will pull my data from 2020. If you want to add multiple filters in here, you can come in and you can start selecting the same pick criteria. It's that same list right here. You can filter it down. If you want to set a date parameter of, you know, from this date to this date, you can come in here, start selecting those, you know, before such and such a date, after such and such a date, and it'll give you that time frame that you select, okay? Once you're done adding all the filters you want, this is where you're going to come up and you're going to get your results, okay? Now, I showed you earlier when we looked at this, what you were looking at was the CSV file, that Excel sheet, okay? This is what it looks like inside the module itself, okay? So my incident number is always going to populate over here. You saw that was mandatory selected, right? Here would be a dispatch run number if I have it. In my test account, it's not a mandatory item for me. I don't have that. Here's going to be the fire department ID number, the incident date. These are, if you remember, as we were going down through each one of those sections, these are all the things that I talked about, right? These are all the things. Now, when you see these things, you know, is it reviewed? When you see that true there, that's equaling that value of yes, it has been reviewed, right? If it was not reviewed and I had just a completes in there, you may see false in there, like in this case right here, okay? Looking at the aid given or aid received, automatic or mutual, you're going to see that in there, right? And then all the other information that I put in there, I'm going to begin. Here's my incident type code. Here's the incident type spelled out. Here's the incident group, okay? Series, there's my apparatus, stations, all the criteria that I selected is going to be included in this. Now, as we talked about, you can come in here. From here, you can come in, you can save this query. So if you ran this query, you're like, yeah, I like that, right? I'm going to come in, I'm going to save that query. This is where you come across. You can type in right here, put a description in there. Okay, now this is where you're going to select whether you want to share this with everybody in the account or whether you want to keep this to yourself. Okay, if you keep it to yourself, it's going to be visible to you. Others won't be able to see it. When you select to save it or share this, everybody in the account is going to have access to that query. When you come in, you save that query, it's now going to be part of that main grid out here that you did. You're going to find it right here. Okay, now the specific functionality, we demonstrated the favorites here, okay? If I want to view that in the format we were just viewing that in, when I select the eyeball icon to view the query, it brings me back to exactly what I was looking at. Now, if I want to change some criteria, maybe I didn't want, if I come in here, well, maybe I didn't want the incident series. If I want to take that out of there, that's going to take that out. I'll leave my filters set the way they are, and then I have the ability to come in here and I can save that as a new query, right? Put the same information, put the title, put the description, whether you want to share it or not, you put that information in there and you can save that query, okay? Once I've made my changes, I come in here, I get my results, I can take a look and see what this is. Now, talking about downloading it to a CSV file. When you come in and you hit this button to download this to the CSV file. So you can open this thing up. Okay. And if I wanted to, I can even come in here. I can set, it's a nice trick that Kevin taught me here. When I come in, I can insert my own tables. And the different values that I chose from, if I want to take this CSV file and I want to start looking at this data and examining it, right? So let's go over to the incident type. Well, if I want to start paring this down, you know, the file's going to have everything. Your choice is down here, just like BI Basic, if you're familiar with that. When you come in here, well, let's say that I don't necessarily want to see all of these at first. I want to come in here and take a closer look at my 111s, my 321s, and my 733s, right? So now instead of having this full sheet of data here, I'm going to come in here and I can pare this thing down and I can begin looking at just these. Now, if I want to sort them so they're not spread out, I can also come in here, smallest to largest, largest to smallest, right? And I can begin sorting that data to be more specific on what it is that I'm looking at, okay? And again, so if you're running this query, you pull this up, you download this. If you insert these tables in here to where you can sort, you can choose the different fields that you're looking at. If you notice, you know, I really don't need this, I really don't need that. That would be the example of where you're going to go back in, where you're going to change that search criteria, and then you can save it again as a different report as you're going through. Okay. All right. Now, coming back here, we'll start looking at some of these other ones that I have right here. If I wanted to come in and I wanted to look at this and say, okay, I'm going to change this. Well, maybe I don't want to share this for whatever reason, right? Or maybe I want to adjust this, you know, maybe I'll look at this. Maybe I changed the date parameters. So I'm just going to come in here and change that back to, I did it between January and March of 20 instead of from January 1st to March 25th of 2021. Now, this is an example that you're looking at right here. When you're done, right, you just hit that check mark and it's going to save. This is an example that you're looking at right here when I set these date ranges up to pull from a specific time frame, okay? When I view this report, when you look over here at my filters, see how I'm going to have incident date, what I'm going to do after 1/1/20 and before 3/25/21. Now, everything that falls within those parameters. So maybe you're going to do a year, 2 years, 3 years. Now, when you're looking at that incident date, if you selected, right, just last year, right, or last month, something along those lines, well, this is where you can come in. You know, you don't see a biannual on here, or you don't see a 3-year time frame. If you want to expand that out past a year search, this is where you're going to want to come in and you're going to want to look at this after such and such date, before such and such date, and now you're running that into a multi-year period that you're looking at. Okay, and if we come back and start, let's look at the get results. And here's going to be everything that I've chosen to look at on that query tool. Okay, coming back out, look at some of these others as you're going through here. If I come in and I want to pull just my data, you know, this one right here, incident by unit. So I showed you how you can view it. You don't have to open this thing back up. If you want to come in here, if you want to pull that CSV file, you can open that CSV file. It's going to pull it down for you. Right, you're going to open that up, and it's going to be available to you, you know, the same as what we looked at on that other one earlier. Now you're going to notice there's a lot less information on this one, right? So that's the customization part of this. You know, when you're dealing with our canned reports, if you will. When you're dealing with those, they have the fields built into them, and there's not a whole lot outside of Excel downloading or text downloading to where you can manipulate that data. But here, if you pull a canned report and it has 7 different columns in there that it's sorting that data or 7 different information pieces, well, maybe only 1 or 2 or 3 of those is important to you, right? This is the benefit of this custom query tool, right? Where you can come in here and select only what you want to see, okay? Any questions so far, guys? Anything we need to address?
Hey, James, Mark, let me break in here for just a second. I know you briefly covered it. Let's go back to Brad had a question about the deletion of someone else's query. And we just want to clarify that you cannot delete anyone else's query. And also, if you want to use their query but maybe edit it, all you have to do is view it and then save it as your own. We want to just make sure that's very clear. Like the one I put in. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I just was want to point out the one I put in. James could look at it, view it, and edit it, update it, and save it as his own query.
Yeah, here's basically Mark's criteria for his tool, right? So when we come in here, if I wanted to add the FDID number to it, right, now I can get my results, and if I like that, I can save that as my own at that point, okay? Now, going back out to where we were looking at Mark's, I can try and delete it all day long, but it's not going to delete, right? Whereas if this is a report and I had it, and I'm like, I'm not really using it that much, right? Because I own this, regardless of whether I shared it to the group or not, I can come in here and hit delete all day long, and again, so hard delete archiving throughout the system, right? Anytime you get any message like this, where it's basically saying, are you sure, right? Are you sure you want to delete this query, right? This is telling you you're not getting it back. In this case, cool, right? We're going to wipe that one out. That query is going to be gone, okay? And then you'll see, everything else just adjusts up from there. Okay, any other questions that you guys see?
James, it's Tom. Great question from Philip, and we'll probably need to test it unless someone knows automatically. But with the before and after parameters, is the selected date included or excluded? So is it, greater than or equal to, or greater than, less than or equal to? Does it include the date at a time selected? Do we know the answer to that, or do we just need to test it to confirm?
Let's look, because I'm not 100%.
That's a great question.
I think this one's going to give us our best. So this one would be before 331 and after 1/1. Okay. So if I look at this,
Guys, Kevin has just given us information. Before means before, and after means after. So to get a report starting January 1, you would have to put in after December 31st. And Kevin can verify that. So he's verifying it right now for us in the background.
Yeah, he says he thinks we're going to confirm it.
Okay. But yeah, I'm not showing anything. Let me go back for a second. So this is after 119. Let's change that. Yeah, we're going to do that, and I'm going to change that to this year, just to kind of.
And guys, while James is doing that, Kevin, if you want to look at the question from Sue, it's a good one. If you've selected either dispatch, en route, or arrival time in a report, and you didn't maybe select an apparatus per se, does it grab the earliest time for each of those benchmark times, regardless of unit, or does it look at order of arrival? I think I know the answer, but I want to leave it to the pros to confirm it.
Okay, so based on my criteria I chose here, I think it's including the first, but it's not prior to, is what I'm seeing testing this. Right, because I know that's, looking here, the first incident there that I show in my account for this year. Let's just verify that. Yeah, that's going to be the first one I show is on the 12th. And let's pull this up. So the last one I would show would be the 30th. So let's start that on the 30th and see what it gives us.
And guys, while James is doing this, just thanks for your patience here, because this is in beta, and so some of the things that we're testing and practicing, they're case studies that, you know, we haven't done every possibility, and so this is great feedback for us to confirm some things about the system that will help other users. So thanks for the good questions, and James, thanks for taking time to go through it.
So we'll select the 30th and see if it includes that call on this report to test this. And the number on that was 61. Nope. I'm not getting it. So it's not including the date that you select. Those are all 21s. It's not pulling the actual 30th. So like Mark had mentioned, like Kevin had told him, confirming that, you would have to, if you want to include the 30th of December on this report, you would have to choose this criteria as 1229 in order to include the 1230. Okay. Anything else that you guys are seeing as we're going here?
We had a question, James, on the max number of records, and you can see on the instructions if James would just select go get results right now. James, select that. You know, sure, you're right on here on this top light blue bar. It'll tell you that 100,000 rows is the limit of the query tool. That was a great question by Alan out there, and the screen he's looking at right now will show you 200 results. To see all of them, you'll probably have to do the download, especially if you have more than 200 calls in this instance.
And also along those lines, you know, the more information you pull, right? Give this thing a second to catch up on all that data. And for those of you who are really familiar with the business intelligence, all the data that we pull, the one thing to remember in business intelligence versus the canned reports that we use. If I go in and I add a call or a training record or something along those lines and I pull a canned report for that, it's going to update immediately, right? So if my report pulls reviewed incidents, if I go in there today and I add 3 incidents and I close them out and review them, they're going to be included when I pull that. As with anything with the Microsoft Business Intelligence, this updates your information every 24 hours, right? So it's important to come in here, especially when if you're splitting hairs and you're looking at details of maybe including the most recent thing that you've done, come in here and take a look at when that last data refresh was right here, because this only updates every 24 hours. So any calls that I would put in here today after the next scheduled data refresh, those will be included, right? So keep that in mind as you're, you know, either working in BI Basic or if you're working in the query tool itself. Okay. Guys, if you can check with Kev, but go ahead.
Can I interrupt you there for a second? We had a question. I think Tom started to answer it. So Sue put in a question about dispatch and route arrival time. Does it look for the earliest time for each, or does it look for the apparatus? I think right there, your query will show us that, because we have 3 entries for the same incident number at the top of that query. Scroll back up to the top of it, please.
Okay.
So just grab the scroll bar and go over and we'll see the different apparatus that may have responded on that. And you may have not have.
Well, let's go back and add it.
And we may not have added that.
There it is. Multiple apparatus. Is that what you're looking for, Mark?
Well, that's what the question was looking for. So the times, alarm time and route time and so forth, can we add those in?
Which one was it? There we go. So which ones did you want to add, Mark? The alarm time, dispatch time, and route time.
And arrival, yeah. But we don't need
Yeah.
clear for this.
Yeah. So one thing before we even get these results, one thing I want to say for ease of operation when I'm doing these, right? One thing I want to point out is I list my times. I just fill times. So these are all going to pull the same time. So don't be alarmed if you see the same time in each field, right? Well, this one actually changed, but the majority of these are going to have the same time across the board as we're pulling. Okay?
That's a common thing we all do.
Yes, it's for ease of demonstrating and teaching to folks, right? I just come in, hit fill, and move on to the next one. But here we go, this one right here. It's going to pull each one. So I give you guys a pretty good look on.
There you go, Sue. That's your answer right there. It's pulling all the times, and you can use the Excel download to crunch the numbers.
Okay. So one thing I want to do, if Kevin's okay with it, I want to give Kevin being the product owner and him and his team that work on this. Kevin, if you want to unmute your mic and jump in here and maybe talk a little bit about it, give some of the where we're headed with it, some of the different things that maybe you'd want to add to the presentation, please feel free to do so.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Well, thanks for checking this out and using it, and most of all, for giving us feedback. We've definitely taken some feedback, as Tom and James showed, in the send feedback area. And I mean, that's what we do. We build this in an iterative cycle where we put the very first version of it out to collect feedback, because we think we know what's important, but until we hear it from the end users, we don't know for sure. So the best thing you can do is give us the feedback and communication, and it'll help us hopefully build a better tool for you to do your jobs with.
You want to hit on anything like what's to come, Kevin, or what you know is to come so far?
Sure. I mean, we've got a few things on the roadmap, but you know, part of our workload will dictate what gets pushed out, as well as the user demand for any potential future developments in this. We've definitely got some things on the roadmap. You know, if we have a need to go larger than the 100,000 rows, you know, we'll look at doing that at that time. But so far, we haven't really hit that ceiling, and that's not an open challenge. It's just trying to figure out what makes the best sense for everybody's business needs and where to put our efforts.
Yep. Kevin, would you like for folks, when they're using that send feedback, you know, when they're looking at what they're doing here and compiling their different queries that they're running, and they start thinking in the lines of other areas that this may come out into, would you like feedback pre-deployment of that to say, hey, I'd really love to see this when you guys do, you know, maybe training or something like that?
Absolutely, that's a great point. Any fields that would be beneficial to users, let us know what those are. We've definitely taken some feedback on what additional fields people would like added to incidents. So I know there's been a number of requests for some additional time and date stamps for additional check-in metrics that are primarily used when transporting, like to a hospital, you know, when they leave the hospital, you know, just additional metrics that we didn't have in the first build. So those are things that we're looking at doing. I mean, the other portion of that is we are making some potential architectural changes to the way that this functions. So we put this version out in the wild to collect feedback while we make the changes to make our next version of it. So it's, you know, we're in the collect feedback phase of this, and the architectural changes we're making should help us make an even better product in the next revision. But yes, absolutely, tell us the fields that you need, and we will look at getting those in.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. And guys, really, I can't say enough. Kevin and his team, absolutely top shelf, right? They're very responsive. You can look, just beating this send feedback thing kind of into the ground here, but it is so important. So I do want to touch on some of those things. For those of you who use BI Basic on a regular basis, right? I want you guys to think about BI Basic of March of last year when you started using it, right? And I want you to start thinking about some of those items that have been added, right? So if we come in here and we look at the incident volume now, based off of incidents that we're pulling over there, you remember back to March when this thing started, right? Well, now we have this feature. We've upgraded the percentiles. We've made the functionality to where you can print what it is you're looking here, right? You can pull this out into a focus mode, okay? When you pull this thing out into a focus mode, we added on your slicers, your filters, we added to where you can select FDIDs based off of feedback, right? I'm just coming through and showing you guys all these different things and all this different functionality that has been added, and the bulk of that has come from getting Kevin and his team that valuable feedback that they need, right? And I'm a huge proponent of the BI, right? And I use it a lot. I demonstrate it to customers a lot when we're doing training. I am a huge proponent about it, and one of the reasons is because the interactive capabilities of it, as well as this just continues to get better and better and better. And I really think you are staring at the future of data collection when it comes to the records management system, right? So let's all work together to get this to be the best that we can possibly be out of it. Okay. Mark, Tom, Mike, Greg, any other questions?
So Sherry's got a good question on that may not be including the volunteers that are included on the call, which means they're probably selecting, persons involved, but not on an apparatus. And so we can look to see if it's pulling that data point as well and adding to the total number of people. I don't know the answer to that, but it's worth investigating. And so it's very likely it's not pulling that number.
I don't know. To really test that, let me see. Let's add a few people to this call right here. Okay. Over here, I'm going to save. And I got to change here. Hope you guys bear with me here.
No problem. And then, and Kevin and the team might want to take a look at both Stephen Fay's question about the inclusion of additional ER modules down the road, and then the ability to auto run queries, where the plans are, if any, for those. We probably want to address that. Some of the questions we've got from both.
I just realized that I'm not sending properly. My responses were still in purple, I believe. So do I need to hit
there we go. They're popping in now. They're popping in now, Kevin.
Yep. I didn't see that I needed to hit that button. So yeah, let me get those sent out there.
They're coming. There we go. Awesome. Thanks,
right.
Kevin.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for the help. Didn't see that button.
Okay, so let's try to just go with that information.
Hey, James, while you're working that, I just point out to everyone out there, some people are requesting, when are we going to see additional fields like the narrative or personnel and so forth? Please put requests like that of the fields that you need to pull data from into the beta feedback and send that off to Kevin and his team so that they'll positively get it and consider that for inclusion.
And David made a good point, guys. David Keeney. The data you're entering now won't pop up in the data warehouse till after 8 p.m. tonight.
Yes, doggone it. See, that's a prime example. I did that. Well, I mentioned
Don't worry,
that.
I've done that before in a demo. So it's good. So guys, that's a good point, right? So if you are looking for data for the same day, it's not going to be in there because the way we process it is instead of going direct to the database, which would bring it to a screeching halt if all of our customers were hitting it, at the same time, or even not all of you, but a good chunk of you were. So what happens is the data is pushed to a data warehouse. So then when you run the query, it's snappy, it's quick, but we have to do it Q 24 hours, and that's at 8 p.m. every night. So as soon as you hit 8 p.m. Pacific time, right? Pacific time, the data from prior to that time in your system will then be part of the data warehouse and will show in the query. Same goes for BI. So that's where it hit me on the BI. I'm like, why isn't it showing? And then I realized, the data hasn't hit the warehouse yet.
Let's try. I'm running a very narrow scope here, but I luckily enough found an incident that has 2 people on the piece and 5 people after. So let's look and see what it's going to show us. So that incident number is 6. No, it's not. Wait a minute.
There's a great question for Kevin in the chat. Query builder for occupancy module. And I believe Kevin will explain that there are future releases coming, but there is really no date of deploy that can be really released at this time because they haven't have that fully established. If I'm wrong with that, please pipe in, Kevin.
Okay, so
yeah, we've just taken the same question a few times. So to let everybody know, right now, our query builder basic beta is incidents. We plan on adding more incident fields, and then the plan is to add more modules down the road after our architectural changes are completed. And I'm not sure in what version those will come out in, or how those will be bundled, or the exact release plan on that. But it is our plan to have all the modules available through this interface.
Yeah, and I think there, folks, the thing to remember here is, just like simple construction, right? What Kevin and his team are doing right now is building the basic foundation. And then they're building out from there, take their lessons learned and make it easier to get the other modules. Now, Mark, to go back to the individual that asked you that question. So this specific call, looking at it, had a total of 7 people associated, but it pulled who all was on the engine. It did not pull the additionals. Okay, so that's verification on that one.
Was the reason for that question for volunteers, if they were using people involved or not on Apparatus?
I believe so, yes.
So just a quick note, the workaround for that would be, since we're only pulling that number of people from Basic Info 4, would be to create a volunteer apparatus to make sure you include those number of people on, and you'll make sure they get in your queries.
Yeah, and what Mike's talking about right there is when you come in here, and I see this a lot in accounts, there is no right or wrong, right? You can choose to do this, you cannot choose to do this, but if you come in, you could just name this. I see this a ton, right? We could do that. And then as far as the vehicle type, right, you can come down here and select privately owned vehicle, right? You fill out the rest of the information. And then what's going to happen at that point in time is when you get to the incident itself where you were, okay, instead of having, suppression piece here, you would add an apparatus and you would add that POV and list the people to that. That would include it in exactly what Mike's talking about there. Nice input, Mike. Anything else, guys? I mean, basically talking about how to do these, the functionality amongst them. Again, the knowledge base articles that you can also find in the knowledge base section, right? You can come in there, you can take a look at them there, as well as Tom did me a solid and made them into PDF documents where they're located in the handouts here. So you guys can look through that. Pretty much everything that we went over today is going to be there. Get in here, play around, start running your queries, send that feedback. And guys, that's all I got, unless we have any other questions that you guys are fielding.
Then James, I think at this point we have all the questions answered.
Okay.
one manner or
Just
another.
got one from Sue. If we're running a query using custom fields, is there a way to filter to exclude incidents that have a blank answer in a particular custom question?
So one of mine, well, let's just work with the one that we got up here. We'll expand the date range a little bit on this. Actually, you know what? Let's go out and pull the whole thing. All right. So what am I looking at here? Let's choose this one. If I come in, so in looking at my custom questions here, so what you're seeing here is just a basic like demonstration purpose. 2 of these are non-mandatory. I put a mandatory drop down, a non-mandatory drop down, a write-in, and a non-mandatory write-in. Okay, so if I select all of these, when we take a look at this report, we're going to find out if you don't have an answer in here, right? If you come across, it's leaving any blanks blank, right? So looking at what I got here, the ones that are mandatory that you're seeing the answers for, got it, right? These other ones right here, and if I start scrolling down through, now some of this is these questions were added at different points in times, right? But for the most part, you can see if there is an answer, it'll pull it. If there isn't an answer, there won't. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the only filter for, if I read it correctly, the only filter for custom questions is equals, right? So you can set it equal to one of your responses, and that should give you a nice filter for you.
Yeah, if we come in and we just start a new one, we'll test what you're talking about here, Tom.
Yeah, I think there's not a multi-picker, right? So if you would have to isolate each response separately, or grab them all and then do a filter in Excel, right? Do a filter in Excel. That would be the 2 ways I could think of doing that.
So looking at this here, so if I do for this one right here, if I insert question equals, and then whatever those choices are, right? And if I add another one, I come down to this custom question, right? I can get round trip, right? It includes or equals, whatever data's in there, okay? And for each custom question that you have, you can come in here, right? Equals, say yes. So in setting those filters up that way, right, when you get your results.
Oh, and James, one of the things that I think, and Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, whenever you see equals only on a custom questions, it means it's a multi-picker. And I think if it shows includes, it was a text-based response that you created for that custom question. Again, I could be wrong, but I think that's how it's behaving.
Oh, well, the mileage one will tell me right now. So includes.
So if it would have to be
I'm
like
trying
a
to
certain,
remember what I
there you
have.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know if I have any. No. Now, can you? Let's try this. See if it'll accept that. No, I don't have anything in there.
Hey, James, let me respond to a question by Rob out there with us. Kevin already put in an answer in. I think it's a filtering or a formatting thing, Rob. He was asking why the seconds don't show up in the export to Excel. They're not displaying in the field, but if you select the field, you can see them. So I believe it's in the Excel. We need to change that format. Just go to the format and change it to display hours, minutes, and seconds.
I bet it's a default setting that needs to get changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, I'm going to go in there right now and double check that myself. And
yeah, I've not had any issues with it exporting the seconds, so I didn't quite get that question. But if it's just something James showed, then yeah, it could be.
in Excel, I'm looking at the formatting, and you have the year and the hours and the minutes. It doesn't give you the option to do the date, month, day, year, and hours, minutes, and seconds. But the data is there because you can see it when you select that particular cell. It's a formatting thing with Excel is the answer.
Yeah, you're talking about right here.
Well, no, they're asking about the seconds. So I see
Date.
like 60, 120, right? And some of those might be blank because this is demo data, right?
Yes, yes, Kevin. Yes, my seconds will always show up as zeros on mine.
Okay.
Yeah, what I think he's referring to there is in a specific apparatus time. If there's seconds in there, they're not displaying because the date and the time is in the same field, and the seconds aren't displaying because there's no formatting option in Excel to do that.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Not the calculated seconds, but the date, time, going minutes, hours, seconds is what you're referring to. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking the fields that had parentheses seconds there, which are the calculated fields. Okay, I got you.
Okay, so let's get your results on this just to demonstrate this. And if you scroll over, you'll see you have some apparatus dates and times. I think you selected them. That's incident date and time. Go on over to the right. Okay, so here you have the alarm date and time. So you're seeing here when you do the download, you only see the hours and minutes, not the seconds, but the seconds are in the field. And that's a formatting thing in Excel itself. You just grab one of those and just.
It's missing the seconds.
Now go over and James, slide back over to the left and grab one of those fields. Just there. Now look in the top row. You'll see the hours, minutes, and seconds here, but there's no formatting option to see the seconds in the field in the spreadsheet.
So column U just needs to, you need to right click the formatting on column U, but it should default. Our export should automatically. Is it an export thing or is it just your own local Excel and installation
It's a formatting in Excel.
No, I know that, but I mean, is it how your local installation of Excel is set up, or is it how we're exporting the data?
No, it's the local format. There's no option in a date. See right here, month, day, year, hours, and minutes. There's no option. I've looked at a whole entire list to see the seconds.
This one here, Mark? I have highlighted.
No, there's one up that shows AM, PM go up a little bit. Yeah, give that one a shot, because it looks.
The other thing too, though, is that depending on which data records you're looking at in this demo account, I see that a lot of them are all 0 seconds, but I'm looking at some that show with like 14 seconds, et cetera, et cetera. It's just going to be some of them that aren't, yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's things we can look at and, definitively say, yes, we can, we can't. This is going to be up to you guys, or not up to you guys, but up to your program, or, but we can definitely take a look at that based off the feedback. But like Mark stated earlier, you are getting it on these results right here. Okay. Anything else you guys want to add before we close this thing out? Okay, I just want to say thank you very much to Kevin and David for joining us, all the trainers, and coming in here. I want to say thank you very much to the customers for being part of this. I hope you gained something out of this. And as always, you have choices. You've chosen emergency reporting, and we very much appreciate having you guys as customers. With that, you guys stay safe, and we hope to see you again on the next Virtual Thursday.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you enjoy. Have a great week and stay safe out there.